strategies for managing complex deployments. Um, my name is Mark Levy, and I'll be hosting today's webinar, and I focus on product marketing here at OpsMX. Before we start, I'd like to just do a couple housekeeping items first. The session today is about 50 minutes long. We're recording the session. We'll send the recording and the slides to everyone. And to ask questions in the chat, we'll answer as many questions as we can. I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Balaji Siva. Balaji is VP of Product and Business Development here at OpsMX. He brings over 12 years of experience in product management and marketing in enterprise software space. And prior to OpsMX, Balaji was head of product management at Cisco for cloud native solutions and networking virtualization products. Good morning, Balaji. Balaji, can you hear me? You on mute?
Yeah. Good morning, Mark, and good afternoon. Good
Okay.
everybody on the call. Sorry, I was on mute. I was talking, but then I guess you weren't hearing. Thank you for joining. Yeah, thank you for the invite. So I can get started with this presentation. So we're going to focus on how you can do different kinds of rollouts, why you should do different kinds of rollouts, and how can you do progressive rollout, and some of the strategies for it. We also will have the last part of it, the middle part of it is around some of the solutions we are providing in the space. So if you're trying to do a rollout and you want to scale the rollout, we have some solutions as well as scaling Argo CD itself. And we'll have a demo as well at the end. Feel free to ask Q&A throughout the session so that we can try to answer it probably at the end, because I'm going to be presenting. If Mark can answer some of the questions, he can. This will be the slides and the recordings will be available for you guys to use, so you should be able, you don't have to worry about taking notes if you don't want to. Let's just get started. For people who are not familiar with OpsMX, we are a CI/CD company. We've been supporting a lot of large customers adopting modernization of their CI/CD. Our vision is to be able to allow you to deliver software without human intervention. That means we want to be able to simplify your software delivery as well as automate some of the software delivery things that's done today manually or ad hoc or different fashion, right? And you also want to provide you end-to-end visibility, auditability, traceability, so that you are able to deliver your software without worrying about whether your security is compromised or other things like reliability, performance is compromised, etc. So we have you see some of the logos in the bottom. There's some of the companies, customers that we work with. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to us. There'll be some information at the end on how to reach out to us. All right, with that, so today's topic is around progressive deliveries, right? So the primary purpose of progressive delivery is to be able to deploy new updates or new software, new features to your customers, to your production deployments safely. There are multiple ways people have done it, or doing it. Feature flag is something that people have used, where new features or feature flag maybe to some set of users, maybe the alpha users or internal users, and then eventually goes into production. That's sort of one way of progressive delivery. Essentially, you minimize the impact of new features. If there's bugs, only the employees see it first, and then they complain, and then you can fix it and do a next version that goes to a larger set of users. The other type of progressive delivery we have seen is around different regions of the world that people deploy software. For example, I remember in a presentation with Google Waze team, and they released update to their software in Japan, for example, for the first day or something. And then if everything goes well, then they roll it out to the rest of the world. So anyway, that's a way to you minimize your impact of new rollouts. And that's definitely something everybody should be doing it. They're probably already doing it. Another way to do it is do it during your nighttime, so you have only users from like around the world or some other parts of the world is or customers are using it, and then eventually, if you find an issue, then you obviously roll out, pull it back, or you continue to roll out to the rest of the world. So the logic, as I mentioned before, is limiting the blast radius during your new updates or patches, basically, right? So you obviously do your own testing, internal testing, obviously QA testing or staging testing, etc. But the overwhelming logic these days is that, hey, that's not enough, right? You're not really simulating the real world customer traffic, customer impact properly. So you really have to still do some sort of a, what I call a production testing in some ways. You're rolling out to production, then getting real traffic from real world, real customers, and then eventually, feel comfortable to do a full rollout. So that's the key attempt at this rollout that we're doing. So what are the benefits? You're able to lower the deployment risk, as we talked about. And developers can get fast feedback, right? Instead of if you just give it to your internal employees who are going to use the product and give you feedback, there'll be quick, fast feedback versus customers and other people providing feedback that will take a longer time. You're able to release things obviously faster because development teams can work and release a feature and test it independently and deliver it and not affect anybody else. In a way, you're able to release faster with control. We talked about this pre-production testing, reduce your pre-production testing. Sometimes you may not be able to really simulate everything that's possible in the production in some ways. So you are able to, obviously now use production as a sort of real world testing. And in some cases, you can sort of eliminate some of the pre-production testing because you know that you have the ability to control the rollout. So you're not afraid to do the kind of testing in production by limiting the number of users or number of traffic to a very low number that you feel comfortable with your business impact. So let's get into the types of progress deliveries that people are typically familiar with. One is called the blue-green delivery, which is sort of we'll talk about in a second. The other is the canary deployment. Other is a rolling update or a progressive type of deployment. What I'm not specifically covering here is a feature flag based progressive delivery or some sort of an A/B testing that's sort of not covered here, but those are all also you can use to do your progressive delivery. And mainly this focus is around Argo rollouts. In a way, that's why we're limiting this discussion to what Argo and Argo rollout can provide. So one of the options is what we call blue-green deployment. If you're already familiar with it, you have an old version that's receiving 100% traffic. You have a new version that's available that currently is not receiving any traffic, and you are essentially doing some sort of validation that's prior to be done. And we can talk about how we can do a during Argo, using Argo rollout, do a pre-deployment verification and a post-deployment verification. For now, let's assume that you're validating, you have a point in time, say, let me switch the traffic over to the new version, right? That's what's happening here. The traffic is all switching over to the new version. Old version is still around. The benefit of keeping the old version is that if in case the new version fails, or you have alarms and triggers that happens and you feel uncomfortable with the new version, then you can immediately switch it back to the old version. You don't have to create it from scratch. All you're doing is keeping all the old version here and then just switching the traffic only to the new version. That's really a very powerful way to quickly roll back. Basically, it's working. All you did is to switch the traffic, right? So in a way, it's a very guaranteed way of making things work. It's pretty popular. Like I said, if there's a failure, you immediately switch everything back to the old version and then go fix the issues that you found in the new version. In the canary deployment, again, you have two versions. So the stable old baseline version 1.0, which is receiving 100% of traffic. You just deploy some small new version. You haven't switched any traffic to it. And then when you're ready, you're switching a small percentage of traffic, could be 10%, it could be some 1% for that matter, depending on the size of your application size of traffic you're talking about. You want to, the goal is not to have a huge impact on your business in case a new version is not stable or is not up to your SLO metric, your SLO requirements. So you're switching a small portion of traffic to the new version and you're testing it. It's similar to the cannery testing in coal mines, where you're sending a cannery, make sure the bird is alive before you send your miners. It's the same concept where you're getting small users, testing it, and if it all goes well, then you do the full switchover to the new version, and then you terminate the old version because you could feel comfortable that a new version is good, right? And we can talk about how to minimize that as well, right? How to minimize issues during that. The other option, which is I think is more popular with Argo Rollout, it's very easy during Argo Rollout, is that instead of going 0 to 100 in the case of blue-green, you're sending nothing to the new version, then sending 100% of traffic to the new version. In the cannery, you're doing one experiment, which is essentially, hey, I'm sending 1% or 10%. If it looks good, then I'm going to send it the new version, all the traffic to the new version. This is sort of a modified version of that, right? And you're essentially having steps. You can specify using Argo Rollout. We'll see in some examples. You can specify how much of traffic that you want to switch between. After each step, you can do an analysis and you can do a decision, right? That analysis could be a manual. Like, for example, you can pause for 5 minutes and then you do your manual analysis. And then if you feel comfortable, you can push it to the next step. And this is and you can have as many steps as you want, right? So there's no like 4 steps. You can have 100 steps all you care. And this is a very good way to do it. In Argo, it's not currently supported where if you have multiple clusters, for example, rollout, today it doesn't stop between different clusters. For example, you have US East, US West, and Europe, etc. And there's no way in the rollout right now to specify, deploy to one cluster, and then if it's all good, it's not traffic switching per se. In this case, I'm talking about traffic. This particular slide, I'm talking about traffic shaping, so to say. But you could potentially do the same thing with the regions we talked about earlier, US East, US West, and then today there's no construct within Argo Rollout that allows you to say, I want to deploy to 10 clusters, something like an application set, right? That concept in Argo, but you stop after the first set, do analysis, everything looks good, then go to the next one. You don't have the construct, but you can totally see that the community evolving to support that soon. So today, Argo Rollout out of the box supports this example that you see on your screen right now, where I'm able to switch traffic between different versions. That's completely supported, and we'll see some samples there. So why use? So do you want to do all of these progress deliveries? So why enterprises are interested in adopting Argo? So Argo, obviously, by default, and one of the primary interests of Argo is essentially it allows you to do GitOps style of deployment, right? Instead of doing hand rolling deployments to different every version, if you have a lot of services and a lot of applications and a lot of deployments per day, it becomes very hard and it's very difficult to track what is actually running in production versus what you should be running, and etc. How do I revert back if something goes wrong? So GitOps style of deployment, Argo makes complete sense. You're basically maintaining everything you need from an application state perspective in a Git, and then you can roll back, roll forward, and Argo will take care of for you, right? You just specify in the Git, and then you can have an automatic sync or manual sync of Git and what's actually running in the Kubernetes cluster. You're able to do that, and that's why people love it. And with the Argo Rollout, it's another project. So if you look at Argo CD itself, there are 4 projects: so Argo CD, Argo Rollout, Argo Workflow, Argo Events. Argo CD does this Git sync, if you want to call it that way, the ability to keep things in Git and Kubernetes sync. Argo Rollout is another project that allows you to do this progressive rollout. So today's talk, or today's conversation, is primarily on the Argo Rollout portion. So if you, with Argo Rollout, as I mentioned before, you are able to do a progressive delivery. You can define all these steps. The tick marks that you see there are basically different steps that you go through. You can specify as many steps as you want, and then Argo Rollout would basically take care of for you. There are a couple of ways to do the analysis. So by the way, you can also do analysis during the rollout, right? So one is sort of the act of deployment, which is shifting this traffic to the new version, right? That's very important. Which is the how the traffic is actually hitting the new servers or the old server. But how do you do the analysis? Obviously, you can pause during the rollout between steps, for example, and have a manual analysis by yourself, or you can do an automated analysis that Argo rollout provides, construct provides. One is to do a background analysis. That means that while you're doing a rollout, maybe you have been pausing, you're doing other things. The analysis runs in the background and gives you a way to tell you, hey, something is going wrong, something is going right, etc. So this is another one way to do it, where it's kind of automatically running in the background, and you're doing your rollouts, and you get the results along with it. The other one is what we call inline analysis. You basically, this is what I was talking about earlier, is you do a specific percentage rollout first, and then you stop. You stop and do the analysis. Make sure everything is great. And then if you feel comfortable, if it passes, then you go to the next rollout. So you go from 25, do the analysis. If if it passes, go to 50, stop, do the analysis, etc. So you essentially, that's inline analysis. We recommend the sort of the inline analysis because you have more control over whether you should move from one stepping to another stepping. That way it helps you control to stop it, if you don't want to go forward. So you have so in this example, you see this UI here. There's a set weight 20%. That's essentially traffic shaping of 20% to the new release. You have a pause. The pause is where you can do a manual analysis. You can also add an automated or inline analysis, and you will see examples of that. So, in addition to pause, or in lieu of pause, for example, you can add an inline analysis step between different stepping. In this case, there's only pause. So basically manual pause, which means that you gotta click restart basically, or click manually click into the next step. You can also have a set time, for example, like 10 seconds in this case, or 1 minute or 10 minutes. It is basically automatically pause for that time. If nothing is found or nothing happens, so it automatically steps forward. So these are all options that's inbuilt and available out of the box for you. Argo CD, Argo Rollout is available for free. So you can if you're a Kubernetes user, if you're like, hey, I want to do this and I'm trying to do it in manual fashion today, I recommend that you go download and use it and try it out. It's Argo project. I'm not sure that you just search for Argo Rollout, Argo project, you'll find it. The other approach I was talking to you about, or the blue-green analysis, is that you can do a pre-promotion analysis. Basically, if you're doing by the way, these things are available out of the box, right? Meaning these models are available out of the box. So let's say you are doing blue-green, we talked about, where you have a new version. You just deployed a new version, you haven't sent any traffic to it. But before you do it, you want to do some analysis and make sure that it is okay for you before you do the switch over 100% to the new version. And you can also do a post-promotion analysis, where basically once you have switched the traffic over, you still want to not declare victory yet, right? You want to do some sort of an automated post analysis, make sure that it's actually good, and then at that point you feel comfortable with the new version. These options are available out of the box, and there are some samples if you'd like to look at it later. So what OpsumX, which is what we do, we help you with this automated rollout analysis. So whether you're doing a blue-green analysis or a progressive rollout, or blue-green or a canary rollout, we talked about this pause, the manual pause that is there, right? That allows you to do yourself, like you go look at the log, look at the metrics, look at everything else that you want to look at, and then make a determination to move forward or not. What we try to do is we help you automate that process, automate that part of manually doing the analysis. So we have a model, the machine learning based model that looks at metrics and logs and tells you the performance of the new application or reliability or quality or security, those kind of risk factors, and say, you know what, I looked at it from the past and the new version, and here's what changed between different versions, and what is the risk of that, right? Some of them could be, if I look at metrics, I could be doing statistical analysis, which basically looks at all the key metrics that you want to look at and try to tell you if there's an anomaly detected. For example, there's more, the latency is high, the error rate is high, or performance is low, etc., or some other metrics you can think of, memory, CPU, etc., etc. We can look at all of these metrics and tell you based on the past data, you're significantly higher, statistically significantly higher or lower, depending on what that metric is. Some metrics higher is good, some metrics lower is good, right? Like CPU, I mean, higher is not good, right? In throughput, maybe higher is okay. So again, depending on what the metric is, you can figure out what makes sense. And that's something we do automatically. You can connect to any data sources and we will be able to look at it. The other one is log analysis. If your application is emitting logs information, and we can look at the logs and automatically, using machine learning, automatically identify issues and tag them as critical, warning, errors, etc. And you can also train them. Like, for example, you could say, hey, I know what my developers are doing from a log perspective. If you ever see this log message, this is actually a critical error, etc. So either you can take your or template and start using it as is, or you can say, I want to modify it, add more things to it. For example, you can also do it during each run. For example, some new feature, new log or new issue was introduced, between version 100 and version 101. If you learned that, obviously you didn't know about it when you started the application on version 1, you can add that learning to the model so that it actually takes care of it in the future releases. The data sources we support for this automated analysis, you can see from log providers like Splunk, Elastic, Sumo Logic, Graylog, Stackdriver, etc., to metrics provider like Prometheus, Datadog, like etc. So if you see something logo missing from this picture, please let us know. You typically add some of those new logos quickly within less than 2 weeks. The way we integrate directly with the Argo rollout, the way we interact with is changing. I mean, I think the community is changing. Before it used to call metrics driver, and they were moving away from metrics driver to a plugin model. So we are now part of one of the plugins that will connect into the Argo rollout during the rollout and do analysis run as natively as part of the rollout process, right? So we also currently we also have a job-based model right now, and the plugin is going to come in the next release, 1.5 of Argo rollout. Today in 1.4 release, we are using a job-based model to do the analysis. This is all technical details. From your point of view, it probably doesn't matter. Net for you would be that, hey, we take care of the analysis for you, connecting to the data sources, more than one data sources, for example. The way you do the analysis is we're just adding as a step in the, like I mentioned, the analysis as a concept is already part of Argo rollout. So we are just being the provider of analysis, right? So you could do some other analysis, for example, but essentially we think that our analysis is better because we're able to bring in log and metrics together and providing a machine learning way of looking at these information. But the way you add analysis is the same, right? You define your rollout strategy and steps. You add your analysis just like you normally do if you're doing it today. And then In our case, you're going to specify how long you want to run the analysis for, you know, what templates, what like default templates you will use for log and metrics. If you want to change something, you can change it. And then when you run the rollout, you get the analysis in line along with the rollout as you expect. The way you define these analysis templates and specifications is similar to how you do a rollout on YAML, right? So basically, in this case, rollout on YAML is the one that, you know, where you specify the strategy and the steps, and then you add the analysis steps to it. And then the log and metrics template is something that we have created to essentially help you with the analysis. So once you're done with once you connected the analysis, when you're doing a rollout, you will get the report right there inside the rollout itself. So here you're looking at metrics, some failure metrics that we found. We also have anything that log or metrics or anything will show in a second. You'll get it right there inside of it. Either you're using rollout extension, which is basically an extension that you can enable as part of your Argo CD. So there's an Argo CD rollout extension that provides this extension, Argo CD, Argo Rollout rather extension that comes within the Argo CD app itself, or you may be running a rollout dashboard as a separate piece of software that you can also enable on the side that runs alongside the Argo CD, and you can see the analysis there as well. Very quickly on the analysis itself, we are looking at, like I said before, logs as well as metrics. So for logs, we can look at different. Sorry, why is my browser going back and forth? For log, we can look at we automatically compare the baseline to production or new release, and essentially figure out all the issues that we find that's different from in the new release compared to the baseline, and call out critical errors and warnings automatically, and then we give a score appropriately if there are critical errors found in this case. And obviously the score goes to 0 because obviously critical means 0. But if only you have warnings, then the score won't be 0. It'll be in the higher numbers. For again, same with metrics. If you have multiple metrics failing, the score will be impacted. There's a user guide that I've created that you can use to understand how the scoring works. That you can take a look at. I think we'll share with you as part of the presentation later. So what you get with this feature, this progressive in this rollout verification feature, is that you can enable the validation during progressive delivery, blue, green, or canary, and also you get diagnostic and attribution, which is actually interesting because if you think about it, you can actually tag these logs and metrics or issues probably found to a specific code change that happened in the new release, and that either could be a triage information you already did for once, and then that could be stored in the log message. So when I hit the log message again, I have that information available for you to identify what to do next. Like another SRE looks at the same error message 1 month later, he doesn't have to go through the whole triaging again. He can, there's somebody who's already done the work, and that could be tagged available there. We're also looking at how to attribute that log message to a new code chain that happened in this new release. So we can look at all the code chain that happened in the new release compared to the baseline, and say, this potentially could be triggered by this particular pull request, and that's done by this developer. So you can really reach out to the developer and say, hey, I see some error messages that I didn't see in the past. I think it could be related. Can you tell me if it's related or not? So you can say, yeah, I know I added this new feature. Looks like I forgot to include some things or do something right. So he can do a patch and he can get it done. So this is going to help you quickly go from an issue found in the log to a solution, to a fixing. We can also do multi-service risk analysis. What that means is that, typically it's not one service deployment that you're doing. If you look at Argo Rollout today, you cannot enable you can only enable rollout at a per service level, right? So if you're having a help chart and you're doing a rollout, you probably have rollout defined for one of them, and then it actually we can actually analyze all the services that are co-deployed along with the rollout service. So basically, we will give you the results of the co-deployed services also at the same time. Very quickly, I think I want to give you, before I go to the demo, so we have this platform called ISD platform, which has one of the features we just talked about is how do I automatically do the verification during the rollout. But it does more than that. So if you want to, it provides you basically a platform to have an Argo CD. If you're new to Argo CD or you're running Argo CD, but you want help with visibility, auditability, and insights about the Argo CD and other features around like policy and approval, governance, etc. Those things are available as part of this platform. It's called the Intelligent Software Delivery Platform. It also supports Spinnaker as one of the other CD tools that it supports, but in this particular case, it's primarily Argo CD. So what it provides you is a harder distribution of Argo projects. So we take the Argo project, make sure that we make sure that we do our own testing to ensure that any vulnerability that are there that we can resolve, address initially, right? And that's one. And you can easily connect your enterprise user management or authentication system and integrations, all of that you can do. We allow you to manage multiple Argo CD instances, not only existing ones, but also can add new ones and manage them. 100% auditability of deployments. Insights like DORA metrics, for example, that's something you may care. These machine learning based verification we just talked about. It's available as a SaaS or as an on-prem software if you like to. And also you basically get the full support for the full Argo platform, right? We also have upcoming in the next few months, we also going to have Argo work. We also already support Argo workflows, but people have asked for, hey, I want to do workflow template management. I want to audit what's going on in the workflow. I want to add approval steps. So I want to be able to enforce policies as part of the workflows. A lot of things people are looking for as they're moving from, okay, I want to do Argo CD and rollout to I want to define a full workflow steps with Argo, and that's something we can support. So like I talked about, we can connect and create or manage new Argo instances. So if you have multiple Argo instances, you can easily create them or connect to them. And you get the visibility of applications across all the Argo CD instances. So if you have multiple Argo CD instances in this case, I can basically bring all the applications across all of the Argo CD instances, or basically you can select which one you want to see and see that only in those applications. So you can quickly see, okay, a dev Argo CD had these application deployments in the last day, etc. You can do all of that. You can also look at if it's an application set, we can also break it down into different different like US East, US West. If you're deploying to US East and US West, you can break it down into that. And also you can drill down into each of the deployments and what's actually running for each of the application. If you have multiple services within an application, different versions of different software running, you can see the current deployment, what version is running, etc. about that particular application. And also you can look at the deployment history of those applications as well. We talked about the DORA metrics, the ability to look at deployment frequency across one or multiple Argo CDs. You can get that information quickly. You can get the full audit as well, like one or more multiple Argo CD. You can look at what are all the deployment that happened for the last months or days, etc. You can get that as well. So just a quick summary of our platform. It's low operational cost because we are essentially taking care of ensuring you have an enterprise distribution of Argo, and you are able to quickly maintain, manage multiple Argo instances, do lifecycle support for them. You are able to get 24/7 support from us. If you were doing your SaaS solution, then you don't have to even worry about managing, maintaining, etc. We have implemented some features like user management, RBAC that you can use for enterprise level. GitOps style of deployments. You can deploy to any clusters behind firewalls. So we have something called agent that you can enable that allows you to deploy to any firewall, any clusters behind any other firewalls if you're an enterprise. If you want to integrate with enterprise tools like Jira or ServiceNow, during your workflow, we have done that integration, as well as policy integration through Coverno and OPA-based policies. You can scale your GitOps for developers with the pre-validated workflow templates that I talked about, as well as these templates for the different type of deployment options, Bluebeam, Canary, etc. We can help you also, like a sort of professional service or some other kind of model, where we can help you with the migration. For example, if you're considering Argo, we are say I like Argo CD, but I really want a full workflow solution. I don't know how to do it from Jenkins or Spinnaker or some other kinds of solutions. Our professional service team will help you with the migration of these things. I'm just going to do a quick demo if that is okay, Mark, and we could. So this is obviously the live product that we have. This actually brings the, like I mentioned before, it brings the multiple tools in one page. So from here you can go and look at the source. You can look at the revision that caused a change, right from here, from yellow to blue. It got deployed. You can see the change. You can go into the actual application and see what's going on there, and do the typical Argo CD activities. You are able to get insights. We talked about what's the deployment frequency of different kinds of applications. You have the full audit. Again, it just gives you a historical view of all the deployment that happened. We talked about the analysis, and that's where for example, in this case, there's an analysis that was run, and I can see what the results look like. For example, I can see that this report, particular case, in this case, the log is empty, but there are metric failures, for example, right? So yeah, I have some examples where there are log errors as well. For this case, I ran this report and I got a score of 72 because there are some warnings in the new release compared to the baseline, right? So in the new release, there are some warnings that was not in the baseline. And this is something done automatically for you. I may have looked at, hundreds of lines of or thousands of lines of log messages, but I'm still able to quickly. So in this case, there are 2,000 lines of logs in the baseline, 5,000 lines of logs in the new release. I'm able to quickly tell you that, hey, what really matters is these three things, right? You could look at the whole of them. You may get confused because some of them are repeating errors or warnings. So we basically ignore that. We say, what, that's already expected. Like it's expected because you saw the similar warnings in the previous baseline release. You ignored it last time. You push it to production. Nothing happened, right? So we're going to ignore them and keep it. You can still look at it. You can reclassify them if you like. But basically, we're going to not make you look at it and redo the analysis again. Right. So in this case, this is the net new ones. It could also be like I saw once in the baseline, but I saw 1,000 times in the new release. That's also a problem too. You can reclassify them and say, this is really not a warning. This is actually a critical error. And then you can put your notes in there. You can rerun it, which will obviously reduce the score to 0 because it's a critical error. You can also look at when during the analysis this particular error message happened. You can download and send it to a developer and say, hey, I saw this thing, what's going on, right? You also have a context. For example, if the same message happens across different contexts, this particular error message, for example, happened in different contexts. Because this warning happened right here in this context of this messages, and in this case, it happened in a different context. In the case of this kind of context. So again, this may not be relevant for this particular use case, but in many cases, based on the message that happens before, a developer can figure out, hey, what? Actually, this got triggered because the user was creating a new profile or something, right? You get the message. Oh, this has happened because the user was deleting a new profile. So all these information will be helpful for a developer to quickly triage and troubleshoot the problem. And so metric analysis, we talked about it, right? It essentially is the ability to compare different kinds of metrics, in this case, throughput or error rate, and be able to show the differences between the releases. If there's significant change, in this case, the significant change between the new release and the baseline, we're able to tag them as an issue that you can take a look at. Again, you can specify whether it's high is better, low is better. Sometimes it's high is bad and sometimes low is bad. And so you can specify all of them. So that's the product quick overview. And you can see that I can add new integrations, new CD integrations, and a new CD. I can create a new CD with the Argo rollout right from here, or I can connect to an existing Argo CD. Let's say you have an existing Argo CD, you can connect through it with one click. We have more work. You can obviously integrate with your LDAP and SAML providers, so that RBAC from the Argo CD is fully compatible with what we're showing here. So when I come here, I see all these applications that will be synced with the RBAC of the Argo as well, so that if I'm not supposed to see this application, I will see that application. So it's fully synchronized. So that's all I have, and I think we have a free trial that you can go and download and use it. Feel free to reach out to us. If you go here, I believe you have this link here, the bit.ly link. We'll send you all the information if you express interest. We will send you the information so you can try it out. We just released this release 4.12, the one I just went through. There's a lot of cool stuff and we also have this free module. That the visibility module is free, so you can download today and try it out. Right, basically, the ability to consolidate multiple Argo CD views and be able to get insight, that's free. It's available today, so you can basically go ahead and try it out with no cost to you, and keep using it. We're going to add more and more visibility features that will help you, we think, to get better insights and better visibility of your Argo application, what's happening. We actually had a call just before this call, where I went through and I talked about what are the next features we're going to do, right? And that's really cool, because I'm really excited talking to our developers on what we can bring in next. And so I'm sure that you would really like some of the features we're talking about. So Mark, I'm going to stop right here. Let's answer any questions we have.
Great, Balaji. Thank you very much. So please, if you have any questions, enter them in the chat. And we got a couple minutes to answer some questions. Please enter any questions in the chat. Balaji, one, that this area of trying to understand the risk of a change before releasing into production, the score, is something that is of a lot of interest. And I get a lot of questions about at what level is it? Is it at the deployment level or the software change, or does it aggregate? Can you give a use case on sort of how it works?
Well, you could set the information in the I didn't get into the actual YAML, etc. But basically, you can specify, for example, I believe here. So this is the configuration. Let me see here which one. You can specify. In this case, the scoring, right? You can specify the lifetime of this particular analysis, 5 minutes, right? The one we just saw before. And you can set the score, this passing score here. Now, this score is, I have actually, what do you call a user guide. Let me just go there and show you guys that, let's see here, product documentation. It's a user guide. So in the user guide, I go explain, basically the same things we just talked today, but explain how the scoring is done, right? So you can look at different kinds of scoring algorithms you're using. So you should take a look at it. It gives you a better idea of, how we do the scoring. Obviously, you can give us feedback, If you say, I would like to be this or that way. We have a few models of scoring, and you can select them as well. So yeah, let's see. Take a look at it and get back to us, and you can try it out. Right now, everything is you can try it out. You can go to this getting started and platform installation, and it's pretty quick installation actually. So if you just want a platform only, you have an existing Argo, you just go through these 4 or 5 steps and you're good to go, and then you'll be able to start seeing what's running right in your systems. I actually had one of these dev cluster. It's actually running on my laptop, Docker desktop. This one is actually running on my Docker desktop right now. And this, even though this particular platform is running somewhere else, I actually connected to my Docker desktop Kubernetes cluster. So on Argo CD. So it's pretty cool, pretty simple, pretty quick. All you have to do is just follow that instruction in here. I just went through it myself yesterday, so I know it's really less than that's 2-3 minutes basically. You just enter information here, then you get the Argo download, manifest download, and just run it on your laptop, run it on your Kubernetes cluster. All right. So I see one question from Akram. I guess he wants a copy of the presentation. Yeah, absolutely, we'll have it. I think you'll get an automated email. After the presentation.
Great. Any other final questions?
Mark, that you want to ask me, I guess, from your, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think one other area you mentioned, Metrics.
Yeah.
Can that be implemented in the score, or how do you measure with that?
Yeah, so
How do
this is
people use it?
The Dora Metrics is obviously available right away, right? So it's available, you don't have to configure anything for it. It's available, as part of the system. You could, we are actually, the next release, we're gonna have more ability for you to basically we're gonna integrate with Grafana, so that you also can add additional queries that you want to run. That can also be displayed as part of the insight. So basically, not only you get the default sort of the view that we provide from our research or interesting thing that we think is more interesting to you, but you can also add your own basically query that allows you to display information that you like.
Great. So any final questions before we sign off? And Balaji, I want to thank you very much for the time. I want to thank
There's one more question. One more question. Sorry. I think it is, do you have any specific workflows for ML ops CI/CD process? Yeah, Akram, we do. We can share with you. I think we have your information. There are some. So basically, our workflow template. Obviously, the idea of this thing is that help you with get started quickly, right? The whole benefit of working with OpsMX or some vendor like us is that you are going through your journey of adopting GitOps, adopting Argo CD, Argo workflow. We have visibility, we help many of you. So we have the skill set to kind of, we've done migrations also, right? For example, from Spinnaker, we have Spinnaker experts too. So, or Jenkins expert too. So we can help you with those kind of things. Yeah, specifically on the ML workflow templates, yeah, we do, and we will share them.
Great.
All right.
Final questions? We're coming up on the 50-minute mark. If not, I want to thank all the attendees for taking the time today. We will send you the presentation and the recording and the link to the user's guide for the scoring.
Yeah, we should also give that access to our trial setup as well as, I think we can the installation that we can.
Yes.
I really think that you should be able to try it out in the next hour if you get that information. So you should try it out. Let us know.
Great. Well, thank you, Balaji. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day or evening wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you. Thanks, Mark.